Ladies and gentlemen, retirement was supposed to be my golden chapter, the long-awaited reward after decades of hard work. I imagined peace, freedom, travel, hobbies, and laughter. But what I didn't expect was the slow, creeping sense that something was missing. Despite having all the time in the world, I felt empty. The joy I thought would be automatic never showed up. And when I finally stopped blaming my circumstances, I realized the truth. I had unknowingly formed habits that were draining the life out of my retirement. Let me share the 7 habits that stole my joy, in the hope that you can avoid them and reclaim the peace and purpose this phase of life should bring. Before we begin, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any video. Habit number 1, I stopped challenging myself. When I entered retirement, I thought I had earned the right to finally take it easy. No more deadlines, no more pushing myself, no more chasing goals. I believed that rest and relaxation were the ultimate rewards after years of grinding. And while rest is essential, I made the mistake of abandoning challenge altogether. Without even realizing it, I let go of the part of life that had kept me energized, focused, and alive. The part that involved striving, learning, and growing. In the early months, doing nothing felt like freedom. I could sleep in, watch television, and let the hours slip by without pressure. But over time, something inside me started to fade. I didn't have the same spark when I woke up. Days started to blend together. I lost the sense of achievement that had once given my life momentum. It became clear that I hadn't just retired from my job. I had retired from pushing myself in any way at all. The mind, like the body, needs to be exercised. Without goals, routines, or intellectual stimulation, my thoughts became repetitive and dull. I stopped asking questions. I stopped learning new things. I avoided anything that felt like effort, and in doing so, I lost part of my identity. I didn't realize how much purpose and joy came from the simple act of improving myself or mastering something new, no matter how small. I used to think that challenge meant stress, but I've come to understand that challenge means growth. It means staying mentally sharp, emotionally resilient, and spiritually engaged. It doesn't have to be grand or ambitious. It can be as simple as learning to cook a new dish, reading a thought-provoking book, or practicing a skill I'd always wanted to try. Even something like building a daily walking routine, writing a journal, or volunteering regularly can awaken that drive to do better. By choosing comfort over challenge, I had unknowingly chosen stagnation over vitality. I robbed myself of the feeling that comes from progress, from effort, and from earning my rest rather than simply indulging in it. I started to notice that the happiest retirees weren't necessarily the wealthiest or the busiest. They were the ones still growing, still curious, still pushing themselves in small but meaningful ways. Eventually, I decided that if I wanted to feel alive again, I needed to stop coasting. I began setting small goals. Nothing dramatic, just intentional steps to stretch myself. The impact was immediate. I felt more awake, more present, and more connected to life. That's when I realized that joy doesn't come from standing still. It comes from moving forward, even just a little each day. And retirement isn't a time to stop climbing. It's simply a time to choose new mountains. Habit number 2, I disconnected from people. When I retired, I expected to feel a sense of freedom, a release from obligations and responsibilities. What I didn't anticipate was the silent drift away from people. Colleagues, friends, even family members. During my working years, social interaction was built into my daily life. There were meetings, conversations, shared projects, casual chats in hallways, and even the occasional coffee break with coworkers. I never realized how much those small moments mattered until they disappeared. At first, the solitude felt peaceful. No phone calls, no interruptions, no need to be on. All the time, I embraced the quiet. But slowly, that quiet turned into isolation. Days went by without meaningful interaction. I'd scroll through my phone, maybe comment on a few posts, but I wasn't really connecting. I stopped reaching out to people, assuming they were busy or wouldn't want to be bothered. I convinced myself I was just giving them space. But in reality, I was creating distance that didn't need to be there. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was subtle. I missed a birthday. I passed on a get-together. I didn't return a message right away. One by one, those connections began to fade. And with them, my sense of belonging weakened too. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel missed. And over time, I started to believe I didn't matter much to anyone anymore. What I came to understand is that connection isn't just a luxury. It's a lifeline. As human beings, we're wired for community. We need to be heard, to laugh with others, to share our stories and listen to theirs. When we isolate ourselves, even unintentionally, we begin to lose that vital human spark. Loneliness doesn't always come with loud alarms. It often shows up as fatigue, irritability, or a low mood that's hard to explain. Rebuilding those connections wasn't easy. It took humility and intention. I had to pick up the phone, send that message, schedule that lunch, and be the one to take the first step. I had to stop assuming people didn't care and start believing that they might be feeling the same distance I was. Sometimes, all it takes is a simple check in to remind someone, and ourselves, that we're not alone. I also began exploring new communities, hobby groups, book clubs, volunteer work. The connections weren't instant, but over time, I found people who shared my values, my experiences, and my interests. And with that came a slow return of joy. Conversations gave my days texture. Laughter made the hours lighter. Presence, even in silence, made me feel whole again. Retirement may take us out of a busy world, but it should never take us out of connection. If anything, this stage of life is when we need others the most, not to fix us, but to walk beside us. I disconnected from people, and I lost my joy, but when I chose to reconnect, I began to find it again. Habit number 3, let my health slide. When I first entered retirement, the sudden freedom from routine felt like a long overdue reward. No alarm clocks, no rushing through breakfast, no long commutes. I told myself I had earned the right to relax. But slowly, that relaxation turned into neglect. I began to let my health slide, one small choice at a time. At first, it seemed harmless. Sleeping in a little longer, skipping a few walks, indulging in comfort foods more often. But over time, those small choices added up, and they began to take a toll on both my body and my spirit. Without the structure of a workday, my activity level dropped. Days that once had purpose became filled with extended sitting, mindless snacking, and hours in front of screens. I told myself I was just enjoying retirement, but deep down, I knew I was avoiding the effort it takes to stay healthy. I stopped paying attention to my posture, my meals, my water intake. My energy dipped, my mood soared, and I found myself feeling older than my age. What surprised me most was how my physical habits affected my mental and emotional state. I became more irritable, more anxious, and less enthusiastic about things I once enjoyed. When I skipped a walk, it wasn't just my muscles that missed out. It was my mind. Movement, I realized too late, isn't just for staying in shape. It's a vital part of feeling alive, alert, and engaged with the world around you. I also began ignoring routine checkups. Without the pressure of a work schedule, I kept postponing doctor visits and screenings. I thought, I feel fine, so why bother? But health isn't just about reacting to problems. It's about preventing them. My weight crept up, my sleep became restless, my joints ached more often, and what used to feel like minor discomforts started to affect my entire quality of life. The turning point came when I looked in the mirror one day and barely recognized myself. Not because of the wrinkles or gray hair, but because of the weariness in my eyes. I had taken my health for granted. I thought I had time. But the truth is, retirement isn't the end of self-care, it's the most important time to prioritize it. If anything, this stage demands more intention, not less. Rebuilding my health didn't happen overnight. I started walking again, just 10 minutes at first. I swapped out processed foods for whole ones. I got back on track with doctor visits and began listening to my body with more respect. Slowly, the energy returned. The mental clarity improved. And most importantly, I felt proud of myself again. Letting my health slide stole more than just strength. It stole my joy. But the moment I decided to take control, I began to feel like myself again. Retirement should be a time of freedom. Yes, but freedom means nothing if you don't have the health to enjoy it. Habit number 4. I focused too much on the past. When I stepped into retirement, I carried with me decades of memories. Some beautiful, others painful, but all deeply rooted in who I was. At first, I found comfort in revisiting those moments. I would sit with old photo albums, replay conversations in my head, and reflect on the milestones I had achieved. It felt natural, even soothing. But over time, I realized I was spending more time in the past than in the present. Without noticing, I had made the past my home, and that slowly began to drain the joy from my life. I found myself constantly talking about what used to be. How things were in my day, how different the world had become, how much better life seemed back then. I kept measuring the present against memories that could never return. The more I clung to those reflections, the more distant I became from the life unfolding in front of me. Conversations felt repetitive. Days felt uneventful. I was physically here, but emotionally stuck somewhere behind me. I also carried regrets. Choices I didn't make, words I had said, opportunities I let pass by. These thoughts played like a quiet loop in the back of my mind. I would wonder what might have been if I had taken a different path. The what-ifs haunted me. Instead of moving forward, I kept reliving my mistakes, as if punishing myself would somehow make them right. But all it did was leave me feeling helpless and drained. I began to notice that while I was looking back, life was moving on without me. People around me were growing, adapting, and exploring new things. I was missing out, not because life had passed me by, but because I wasn't truly present to receive it. Retirement is supposed to be a new chapter, not a closing paragraph. Yet, I had unknowingly closed the book and was stuck reading old pages. The turning point came when I realized that every time I focused too much on the past this stage brings, I was denying myself the richness of the present. I couldn't hear the laughter of today because I was too busy echoing the voices of yesterday. I couldn't see the possibilities ahead because my eyes were fixed behind me. It wasn't easy to shift, but I started practicing mindfulness, simple moments of noticing what was happening now. I began journaling my thoughts, not to dwell, but to release. I allowed myself to feel gratitude for the past without letting it control me. Gradually, I began to reconnect with the present. I noticed the beauty of quiet mornings, the warmth of new friendships, the excitement in learning something unfamiliar. I understood that the past helped shape me, but it doesn't define where I'm going. I learned that joy lives in the now, not in memories, but in moments. Letting go of the past didn't mean forgetting it. It meant honoring it, learning from it, and then stepping forward with open eyes and an open heart. Habit number 5. I overscheduled or underscheduled my time. When I retired, I imagined time would finally become my best friend. No more rushing, no more deadlines, just wide open days where I could do whatever I pleased. But what I didn't realize was how important balance still was. Without the structure of a job, I had to learn how to manage my time all over again. At first, I underscheduled myself. I had entire days with nothing planned, and while that sounded like a dream, it quickly became a trap. The freedom turned into aimlessness. I'd wake up with no plan, lounge around, do a few small things, and before I knew it, the day was gone and I had nothing to show for it. What surprised me was how draining that actually felt. Without a reason to get up, I started sleeping in more. Without small goals, I lost momentum. The lack of structure made me feel unmotivated and even a little depressed. Each day started to blur into the next, and my sense of time became distorted. I thought I was giving myself rest, but in truth, I was depriving myself of purpose. The days felt empty, and so did I. So I tried the opposite. I swung the pendulum the other way and overscheduled myself. I made to-do lists. I joined clubs, signed up for classes, agreed to every invitation, and filled my calendar with so many commitments that I barely had time to breathe. At first, it felt good to be busy again. I felt accomplished, needed, and productive. But soon, that pace wore me out. I was doing too much, and not all of it brought me joy. Some activities were just obligations disguised as opportunities. In trying to stay busy, I lost the space for stillness, reflection, and simple pleasures. I was rushing again, just like during my working years, and it defeated the entire point of retirement. Instead of being present and enjoying each experience, I was constantly thinking about the next thing I had to do. I traded one form of burnout for another. What I finally realized is that joy in retirement comes from a balanced rhythm. It's not about doing nothing, and it's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things with the right intention. I had to learn to be selective with my time, to leave space for spontaneity while still maintaining a gentle structure. I started building daily routines that included movement, creativity, connection, and rest. I made time for meaningful activities, not just busy ones. I gave myself permission to say no to things that drained me and yes to the things that refueled me. Now, my days feel more grounded. I don't waste them, but I don't overload them either. I've learned that how I spend my time shapes how I feel about my life. Retirement isn't just about having more hours. It's about filling those hours with intention, balance, and things that truly matter. Habit number 6, I stopped practicing gratitude. When I retired, I expected happiness to come naturally. After all, I had more free time, less stress, and the freedom to do what I wanted. But despite those blessings, I began to feel a strange emptiness. The days felt dull. Small annoyances started to bother me more than they should. I found myself focusing on what I had lost. My career routine, status. Instead of recognizing what I still had. I didn't see it at the time, but I had stopped practicing gratitude, and that quiet shift began to change everything. Without gratitude, I started measuring my life by what was missing. I noticed the aches in my body instead of the fact that I was still able to move freely. I focused on the silence in my home instead of appreciating the peace it offered. I looked at younger people with envy, forgetting that my own life had once been filled with similar energy and opportunity. I compared, complained, and overlooked the simple, beautiful things that were still present in my life. Gratitude is a habit, not a feeling that appears on its own. And once I stopped feeding that habit, my mindset turned negative. I became more critical of myself and others. I saw inconveniences instead of blessings. And perhaps worst of all, I started taking things for granted. My health, my relationships, even the gift of waking up each morning without a schedule. I didn't realize how vital it was to notice what's good in life, especially in the quiet moments that retirement brings. One morning, I overheard someone around my age speaking with such joy about how grateful they were just to enjoy their cup of tea on the porch, to feel the breeze, to watch the birds. That struck me. I used to see the world that way too. I used to notice and feel thankful for the small things. But somewhere along the way, I had let that go, thinking I deserved more, needed more to feel fulfilled. So I started slowly. Each morning, I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for. Some days it was as simple as a good night's sleep or a phone call from a friend. Other days it was deeper. A moment of clarity, a feeling of peace, or the strength to let go of something that no longer served me. The more I practiced, the more my perspective shifted. I began to see beauty in places I had ignored. I smiled more. I complained less. I felt lighter. Practicing gratitude didn't change my circumstances. It changed how I experienced them. It reminded me that joy doesn't come from having everything. It comes from recognizing what you already have. In retirement, it's easy to fall into the trap of feeling like life is behind you. But gratitude anchors you to the present, where peace, contentment, and happiness truly live. Letting go of gratitude nearly stole my joy. Reclaiming it helped me rediscover the richness of everyday life. Habit number 7. I forgot to define a new purpose. When I retired, I thought I was stepping into freedom. No more alarms, deadlines, or responsibilities that tied me to a clock. I imagined long, leisurely days filled with hobbies, travel, and rest. And while that freedom was real, something deeper began to fade with time. A sense of meaning. I felt aimless. Not because I didn't have time, but because I didn't know what to do with it. The truth is, I had forgotten to define a new purpose. And without that, retirement slowly began to feel hollow. For most of my life, my job had given me structure, identity, and a reason to get out of bed each morning. I had responsibilities, people who depended on me, and goals to chase. My purpose was built into my daily life. But once the job ended, so did that built-in direction. I didn't realize how much of my self-worth and sense of usefulness had been tied to that role until it was gone. I went from being constantly needed to feeling invisible. At first, I filled the void with distractions. I stayed busy, organizing the house, watching TV, running errands. Anything to keep from sitting in the discomfort of not knowing what came next. But no matter how much I filled my time, I still felt empty. Rest without purpose quickly became restlessness. Each day began to feel the same, without a deeper reason behind any of it. That's when I realized that retirement isn't just about stepping away from something. It's about stepping into something new. Purpose doesn't have to look like a career or a paycheck. It can be found in creativity, service, learning, or relationships. It can be simple or profound, but it has to be intentional. I started asking myself, what lights me up? Who can I help? What do I care about now that I didn't have time for before? Slowly, answers began to emerge. I volunteered at a local shelter, started mentoring a young neighbor, picked up writing again. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. That shift changed everything. Having a new purpose gave my days shape and direction. I wasn't just passing time anymore. I was building something meaningful. I felt needed, valuable, and alive again. I no longer looked backward at what I had done, but forward to what I could still contribute. Retirement isn't the end of purpose. It's the chance to redefine it on your own terms. I learned that joy isn't just about relaxing. It's about mattering. When you forget to define a new purpose, you risk drifting through what should be the most rewarding chapter of your life. But when you rediscover what gives your life meaning, even in small ways, everything changes. The spark comes back. The days feel fuller. And retirement becomes not just freedom from work, but freedom to live with intention. Joy doesn't vanish overnight. It fades, quietly, with every small choice we make, or fail to make. I lost mine in retirement not because life was over, but because I stopped showing up for it. These 7 habits were the thieves I let into my life, disguised as rest, comfort, and routine. But the good news is these habits can be changed. Connection can be rebuilt. Purpose can be redefined. And joy, no matter how lost it may seem, can always be reclaimed. Retirement isn't the end of your story. It's the blank page you to write with deeper wisdom, greater freedom, and renewed passion. Don't let the wrong habits steal what you've worked so hard to reach, and choose better ones, and start living again. God bless you.